Shane, can you get up and tell us who you are?
I'm Shane Roberts, I live here in town.
Beth Wheeler, I'm one.
David, you're one too.
Yeah, Dick Leonhardt.
I'm the chairman of the board.
And Lee and Johnny.
That's us.
All right, what I want to know is when you guys go to vote, when someone makes a motion, there's a yay, and then someone knows it. That automatically makes it go to a vote, correct?
Go to a vote of what?
You vote on the motion, right? I mean, if
We take
you
a
make a
vote.
motion,
Okay.
Then we have
and
to have a
then-
second.
Natalie seconds it, and then she's not going for it.
That's fine.
So that makes it go to a vote, right?
If there's a motion and second, there's an automatic vote. We always vote.
Who votes?
The members of the board. The ones
Which
that just
one?
introduced.
Raise the hand, who votes?
Alexander?
I usually just entertain the motions and the seconds.
But we have an odd
Ask
number,
for-
so if there's a tie, that's
Right,
right.
if there's a tie, I know.
So the mayor don't, or the chairman never votes unless it's a tie.
There's a tie. I vote, when we do like when we did some ordinances, we each did a separate vote and had it written. You have to write it down and put each person what they voted for that way. And I said, yes, I do vote on
Only on a
something.
tie.
Well, no, on just, usually if I'm asking for a motion, I'm agreeing with what we're doing anyway, but I do vote on anything.
I'm not saying this to make anyone mad. Actually, you can't vote, correct? Period, unless it is a tie. No.
It's because everybody was elected the same way. We all get
But
the
who's
vote.
the chairman or the president?
I was just
See, that-
voted chairman after we were elected.
The trustees vote,
And she is a trustee.
She's a trustee.
so there's no one in charge of the council.
She's a trustee that the trustees have elected to chair our group.
Oh,
We vote on it to say who's going to be our chair, and then that she's the chairman.
I just don't understand the real words. When I was on council, the mayor or the chairman did not vote, period. Just the trustees. The trustees would vote. If it came to a tie, the chairman would break the tie. And that's the way I go. Have any of you read Robert's Rules of Order? Have you read the voting on it?
We don't, that's not really, somebody else ran that. That's not really what we follow. We have it, but it's generally the same thing. But yeah, it's not our approved or whatever.
But you should stay as close to that as possible, right?
See, I would just show you is it okay if I talk?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
On page 15 of our ordinances, it says chairman, powers, and duties general. The chairman and chairman pro tem, who's Natalie, we voted on her too, may vote on any proposition before the board, except in the case of filling the vacancy in the office of chairman. So they're not, if the chair is not going to vote on the chair. If the office, then there's a whole matter of if the office becomes vacant, how we elect a new chairman. So they preside and preserve decorum at the meeting. This is the chair's responsibilities, and see that the financial statements are done and all that stuff. So it's in our ordinances. It says they vote. I think
That's how you do it. That ain't how I.
okay. I think it's good to clarify. So there's no question. But that's I can't speak to how you did it on the board, so I don't know what your ordinances say.
Okay, anyone else have a comment?
I do. Is that on?
Can we have your name?
My name is Mary Croker. I live here in Jameson. I've been here for 20 years almost. And so I've seen things come and go too. But I think that the reasons that I moved to Jameson are in jeopardy of being violated right now, as well as my private property rights and my constitutional rights. I see that we have a lot of discussion over a lot of things here that I feel may not be relevant to a community this size, and really what we're trying to do is just live here. We're a small community. Honestly, I think that, first off, we negated all our previous historic ordinances. Since 2011, there's been over 70 pages of ordinances that have been passed. And then apparently, we didn't have any teeth to enforce these, so now this is where we're at the point of where we're actually looking for code enforcement officers, legal entities that are going to be regulating and prosecuting and finding that. And I want to be on the public record as having stated that I think it's a great little community. I think the term Lucille uses is egregious. We're looking for all the egregious things here. I think that I've seen the community change a lot. I know that every property that I've purchased here, I've put a sizable amount of money into the improvement of and maintaining and keeping them. But as I look at the ordinances that they've actually proposed, that I could be in violation of many of these ordinances. But I'm here to state that the amount of money, the amount of time, the amount of investment in equipment and so forth, the fact that I've hired and paid for other people, the different things they're cared for, there's a limit to what people can actually do. And we don't actually, I look around the community, I take around, take pictures. There's some places where people can improve, but by and large, I think if you compare our community to a lot of other communities, I think that we don't really have such a large problem here that we're ready to start spending time and money on issues like four-way stop up the street and the gravel road, four-way stop. I mean, maybe we got too much going here. I look at a community that raises a couple of $1,000s a year through fundraising efforts. Now I see these fundraising monies maybe turned against us, and that our own prosecution creates another way of creating income for the community and for other people, where I think that when you get looking at whether you actually are in violation of people's rights, private property rights, that you're looking at maybe some problems there. And it may not be at this level, at the magistrate level here locally, but if it were to go to a federal level, I think that would be a whole different outcome for some of the things that we're talking about here. And I'm just saying that I don't see that we have a significant issue here. I don't see that in a town of this size with gravel roads that we're looking at a four-way stop, and that should be something that's, that's of a major issue in this town here. Haven't been, the whole time I've been here, nobody's been killed in any intersection here. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else?
Laurie Fisher, and I'm the president of the town. And I just have a couple of requests of the board. Having attended this meeting a couple of times now, it's really hard for us to hear you, and so I would really like for all of you to speak up. You have voted on bills or issues, or I'm not really sure what, but when you go ahead and it's presented for a vote, we can't hear it. It goes by me. I'm going, did they vote? What did they agree on? So I would really like, if you are going to get ready to vote, if, Madam Chairman, you would stand up and say we are going to vote on this, and then the people who make that vote, yay or nay, or however they do it, they raise their hand and they say, this is my, they say yay, so that we know who's voting. We can see it, we can hear it, and so that it's a public thing, because I think that's one of the reasons we've had some problems here, is because we hear you guys up here mumbling and talking, but we can't hear it, and so we feel like we're not welcome, and we feel like we're not part of it. So we would really like you to speak up and show up when you're ready to make a vote. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Sorry. I know we got the fan going too.
Anyone else?
My name is Brent Hartman. I'm a resident of Jameson. I just had some concerns about the ordinance that I brought up last meeting, which is the ordinance requiring us to hook up to public utilities. I was assured by the board that I would not be forced onto the new water contract And I just want to make sure that that's actually the case. Am I going to be forced to sign this contract by an ordinance, or am I going to be free to not sign that contract? And I'd like the board to address that.
The village is not going to make anyone sign up for the water project. If someone who lives in the village wants public water, the Davies 2 Public Water Supply District will require them to sign up. The village will not.
But you have an ordinance requiring me to sign up to the city water.
We do it this time.
So I'd like to have that ordinance repealed or modified to where it's not, I'm not going to be in violation of an ordinance if I don't sign a contract. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question. Do we have public comment after each vote? Okay, that's what I would like to propose.
You need to give us your name.
Oh, my name is Julie Fisher. Okay, anyway, I just would like to propose that we have public comment after each, or before each vote. Because I think, you know, that people have the right to hear and participate in the decisions that are going to affect us, you know, in the town. And I think people have taken the time to come to the meeting, that they should, you know, be afforded this right. I mean, there's people, you know, that aren't even in the town that have an opinion, and I think, you know, they're heard. So I just think that everybody else should have that right to it. And that's why.
Anyone else? All right, is everyone ready? I'm going to put my big girl voice on, guys. Here's your cafeteria. I use my cafeteria voice. Okay. Has everyone read the agenda? Oh, not the agenda. The minutes from last meeting. Actually, from several last meetings.
Yes.
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 Okay. We are going to take a motion for, is there any corrections or additions?
Are you asking on all the minutes or just the first one we're going to take up?
Just the tax levy hearing and the board meeting for that night.
I don't have any for that
August
one.
21st.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve the tax levy hearing?
I make a motion to approve tax levy hearing.
And I second.
Minutes of the tax levy.
Alita seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Now the board meeting for that night. Any corrections or additions to that?
I have one on the third page. Barnes is misspelled. There's an E between the N and the S.
Also, Mr. Reese's name is yes.
You need to say it louder.
Mr. Reese's name has got two E's and it's no I. Let me find it. I got it.
Your old business.
They're here somewhere. All right, that's the 28th. All right. I have the Barnes.
That's one of Barnes.
This is spelled. All right. Mr. Barnes' name is, oh, I spelled him like a barn.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you want to correct it? How's it spelled?
B-A-R-N-E-S.
All righty, and what was the other one, Beth?
Mr. Reese.
On what page, please? On the second page? Where did I have this, please?
At the area where we said there's one in the city limits. Is that where
Oh,
it's at?
that's not on this one.
It's not on this one.
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
It's on the back of the first page,
Oh, okay, yeah, there it
like
is.
the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph.
Warren, Fred Carlson, and Louise.
Yeah.
Is that?
G on the end, is that what it is?
W-E-E-S-E.
S-E, got it.
Any other changes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the corrected minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as amended. As
I have a
corrected.
second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, now we will do, as soon as I find my agenda, the August 28th meeting. That was the ordinance meeting. I was not here. So, are there any additions, corrections, or amendments to that meeting?
I have a request that when it says something's attached, that they actually be attached to our copies of the minutes, so when we refer to them later, we don't have to track them down.
Okay. Everything all right with everybody?
Do people agree with that, or do I need to just ask for me? I mean, is that going to be done, is my question?
Yeah, if you want it.
Okay, thanks.
Does everybody want the attachments included? Well, the ones that I handed out at the meeting, like right here, where it says see attached. Right. And that was, some of them are part of your packet that were handed out originally, and I don't give them back with your set of minutes because they were in the original. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Public comment, for instance, would not be it. You wouldn't have a copy of that. I get that and attach it to the official record. But if you would like it attached to your copy of the minutes, I mean, you can do that. That doesn't matter. Give it to one way. And David, do you want it attached?
Yeah, I think.
You want
I'd
the
like-
attachments? Patty, no? Alita? Okay, Natalie, you want them also? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the ordinance meeting on August 28th?
I move to approve the minutes of August 28th, the ordinance meeting, special meeting.
I have a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, we have two guests here today. One is Lucille Lusk. She's the chair for the Small Towns Cooperation Board. Can you hear me? And Jan Stout is an attorney who works with several small towns, including serving as a prosecuting attorney for the Small Towns Cooperation Board and all member towns.
Patty?
Yes.
What, and Jan's here this evening in what capacity?
The board asked her to be here.
Okay, so is she representing someone here this evening? Is she?
No.
Okay, so you're just
No.
here
Yeah.
unofficially and, all right.
She's here.
I'm here at the request of the board, and it's my understanding that I think there was may I
Louder.
explain? May I? It's my understanding there was some question about an ordinance that was passed some time back and how it was to be applied. And I think there was some question as to how that was to be done. And they asked me here today to explain, I guess, how it worked and how it is applied in practice. So I don't know that I really represent here, but I do work with the STCB. So, and I do serve as the municipal prosecutor for all of the towns in the STCB.
Okay. I just never saw an attorney go anywhere that you wasn't collecting a fee, so.
Well, I'm,
So I want to know who
I
hired
go
you.
lots of places where I don't collect a
That's
fee.
good. That's a small town, small community. But so here you're not being paid to be here this evening by the
Oh,
board?
no.
All right.
And I will tell you too, that my work with the STCB, while I get a very small amount, the bulk of it is pro bono. I volunteer my time. I get a small percentage each month. But it is about an hour's worth of my time.
Of the fines generated, is that what it is? Or
There has never been a fine generated.
generated, so you just
Never,
get
ever.
a small percentage of,
I can explain this if you
Okay.
want. The way the STCB works is that each town who is a member pays a monthly fee, and it is based upon their population. Jameson's is, I want to say it's $30, $33 a month, based upon their population. For that fee, the STCB works together and puts together an ordinance package and the ordinances they need to establish a municipal code. And this is at the request of the municipality, of the town. They say, we want this, or we think this. And there is an exploration as to what is possible and tailored to the needs of them. And then we have experts, and Lucille is very good about drafting the ordinances that each specific town wants. And then for that as well, they get me to serve as a prosecutor should they need it. And I will say that it's been so successful that there have been very few things that have even been filed. Very, very few. So does that kind of help?
Yeah, do you have an example of maybe the few things that have been filed?
I can actually only think of one, and it was in Winston, and it had to do with a property that had been pretty much abandoned. It was full of trash and debris. The owners had moved out of town, had been asked repeatedly just to mow it and pick up the debris. It was attracting vermin, and it was unhealthy and unsafe. The owners had been requested many, many times to clean it up, and they had ignored it. And when I say many, they had gotten verbal, please do this. They had written requests, would you do this? There had even been offers to help, that if you need us to help you do this, we will. And they had done nothing. So we ended up filing a violation, a nuisance. They ended up ignoring it. They didn't come to court. We ended up getting an administrative warrant, which allowed the city to go in and clean it up for them. And then they were allowed to tax the cost to these people's tax bill. However, they had months and months and months to do whatever they needed to do. They just said, we're not doing it, and it was unsafe for Winston. Honestly, I've done some in other towns, but for the STCB,
That's the only one.
that's the
actually
only one that has
gone to
ever gone to
court.
court.
Most things have been resolved because of citizen cooperation.
Yeah, once there have been requests saying, here's a problem, would you get this cleaned up? And the resident says, sure, we'll get that done. Or they'll say, well, we need to have this done. And I know there's been lots of times when they say, well, I would like to, but I can't. And other residents pitch in to help them. And it never goes to court. It just gets taken care of.
How many member towns of the STCB have an active ordinance enforcement officer at this point?
Altamont, Winston, Coffee.
That's also part.
And I think those are the only three that actually have everything together to be in a position to go forward with municipal court. I think the other entities that we're working with don't have all of their ordinance and things prepared to a point where they are ready to move forward with that. But those towns have had it for some time, and it's not something, I know people think you're making money. We've never collected a fine.
Then how is the enforcement officer paid?
I don't deal with that, I don't know.
Well, it's up to the towns to determine that, but the enforcement officer usually is only hired for 10, maximum 15 hours a month, and usually is paid something like $10 an hour.
And that
Most
comes
of
from
the
where?
time.
And that comes
Well,
from
let
where?
me finish. Most of the time, the enforcement officer, does not need to work that many hours. So whatever amount the town, whatever amount is actually paid, generally comes from the general fund.
I think my problem with the enforcement officer is that, yes, it's needed to clean up abandoned properties, I can see that. But I have a problem, if that's the case, then it needs to be stated as such. If you need the enforcement officer to enforce that sort of thing is one thing, but to have
an officer to just go around and police us monthly. I don't think we need that.
I think actually she will, or whoever we hire would only come if we called and told her there was a reason that we suspected there was, you know, if we have a dog's running around or something, and you call and tell her, the person could take the dogs to wherever they need to be taken.
No one really just got dogs around.
Right now, we don't. There's been a time when we
We've
had.
always took care of the dog.
Okay, I'm sorry if I went farther than what I meant to, what I should have. I was just trying to explain.
We've got you down now to, I don't know, Mary, I'm not sure how much she will be, or the person, I keep saying she for some reason, because Kristen's the one that.
Well, I think what I'm actually trying to say is the main reason for having an enforcement officer is to take care of abandoned properties and places that need to be cleaned up, and that should be stated in the ordinances more generally than what it is. Specifically. Pertaining to that particular problem, if that is the main reason for wanting to have an enforcement officer.
We can address that, you know.
It's my understanding the enforcement officer is going to enforce all of our ordinances, not just certain ones. They're going to enforce every one of them. It's just there's certain ordinances that are more of a priority or I mean, we have an issue with than other ones.
Well, I mean, the town doesn't look bad.
No, it
I
doesn't.
mean, not good.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
coffee still looks like coffee.
I have a question. Are we going to discuss this, okay, on this agenda, it doesn't show anywhere where you guys voted to put forth the proposal that the citizens presented. Is this what this is right here, the ordinance enforcement, or are we going to discuss that at number 7? I'm confused about what's going on here.
We're going to discuss the people that.
The bill's on it for 6 is what we next, right?
Is 5 and 7 the same thing? Are those two different things? What are we talking
Dan
about?
was just going to tell us how the ordinance enforcement works.
Okay, is that what she just did then?
Yes.
Well, I
Okay.
really did it.
No, she's going to talk some more.
Okay, so she has additional information here. Okay. So we are not really talking about the proposal that was made.
I'm not sure yet. We'll see what comes up under the enforcement officer, what we do with that.
Are you talking about 5 or 7?
So,
Okay.
I just wonder, do we have a chance to comment again, or is that just at the beginning, or how does that work?
I think it was just mainly under public comments, but
Okay.
we'll feel this out as we go because we're not going to make people feel like they can't voice
Okay.
their opinion because we all have opinions.
Cool. I just wanted to say about the enforcement officer, I would propose, this is just an idea, that maybe we wait until somebody complains, you know? Instead of having somebody come in and, you know, a job, anyway.
Okay. Let's let Jan speak some more. Is that okay with everyone?
Fine with me.
She said she wasn't.
Oh, you can look. Yeah, well, I think, and I just want to make sure that I'm speaking to what, I think what the concern was had to do with wordings, and I think there was some concern that there might be a violation filed, and that the citizen wouldn't know what it was, and he would find himself in court and not be made aware prior to that. Is that, am I close? Is that what the concern was?
Yes,
Okay.
that was one concern.
Well, let me address that one.